Sunday mornings in Pearl Harbor were usually quiet, boring, uneventful. It was probably the most unexpected day for an attack to take place.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
The Arizona didn't really have much time to fight because a high-level Japanese bomber dropped an armor-piercing round that came down, bounced off the turret number 2, and then went down to the forward magazine. The explosion was indescribable in terms of its violence, in terms of its power. The ship also had 1.5 million gallons of fuel on board, so it broke the back of the ship out of the water and slammed it back down into the mud. Hundreds of sailors and Marines were killed instantly.
That was a day where many men demonstrated extraordinary valor and courage. The beauty of Pearl Harbor went from being a calm respite where ships could dock and be at peace and work for repair. And suddenly, in a matter of minutes, it turned into an inferno of death and destruction.
More than 1,500 officers and crew were assigned to the USS Arizona. 1,177 lost their lives during the attack, but there were stories of survival.
My grandfather, Donald Stratton, at 19 years old, he was part of a very small group of men who actually survived. My grandfather and the 5 others that were in the director with him, their shoes started melting, their clothes was on fire. It was at that point that they were trapped. And then the trade winds started blowing, and they looked across and they saw the USS Vestal that was moored alongside, that was actually a repair ship. There was a man on the Vestal. He was putting out fires. And they started yelling as best as they could. The man looked up, he got a monkey's fist. And this sailor, he threw that monkey's fist into the director.
The 6 men made their way across the rope from the Arizona to the Vestal.
The water was on fire. There were planes still strafing them. So they had to make it down and back. And Don Stratton said, you know, man, I made it. I was about 30 feet away. And he said, it just hurt so bad. He said, I was just about to let go of the rope and I heard a voice. That voice said, come on, kid, you're almost there. And so he didn't let go.
He finally landed on the Vestal deck. He said a hurried thanks to the man, and the sailor just kind of disappeared through the smoke, and my grandfather never knew his name until about 70 years later.
Several survivors led a decades-long search for the man who saved them, but it was the discovery of a long-lost interview that finally revealed the identity of the mystery man.
Were you the guy who threw the line over?
The guy, yeah.
That hero's name? Joe George.
I did not know that my father saved 6 men. He never discussed that. When you look at my father's logbook, it's been in that logbook all along, but it would have been lost had not somebody cared to find out who it was that saved their life. I was so proud of my father. He had this strong, wonderful heart that he let his conscience be his guide. He did such a great thing on that day. It's a story that's almost unreal, but it's a real story.
Joe George passed away in 1996 before posthumously receiving the Bronze Star with Valor, and before the men he saved could thank him in person.
We would never be able to say thank you to him directly for my grandfather's life and for our lives. There are 4 generations of our family that are here making an impact on this world because of that choice 83 years ago.
My father was recognized for the true American hero that he deserved to be recognized for. There's so many heroes, so many wonderful men that had to do so many awful things on that day, and they all have a story to tell, and all of them are important.
I would say that you saw the best of sailors and Marines that day. They were surprised, but it wasn't about them. It was about their shipmates. It was about their ship. It was about protecting others.
Here was the United States. We were not at war. It was a surprise attack. And I think the first thing it tells me is it just shows the indomitable American spirit that rises when a crisis happens.
Today, the wreckage of the USS Arizona still sits in the waters off of Oahu. Declared a National Historic Landmark in 1989, what remains is the final resting place of more than 900 sailors and Marines.
It's solemn. There's a calmness and a serenity to it.
Though many ships were lost on that fateful day in Pearl Harbor, there's one that has become the symbol, the icon of that tragedy, and that's the USS Arizona. People go to Pearl Harbor to see, to pay homage, to pay respects to the men who fought and died on the USS Arizona.
A lone sailor statue stands at the Pearl Harbor Visitor Center in Honolulu, facing the USS Arizona Memorial. The base contains steel from the sunken battleship.
Her story continues.